What I'm really looking for is I am shooting to score a 170 on the LSAT, like right in that range. But my trick is I don't know if I have the time to dedicate to getting a 170 on the LSAT score while still in my undergraduate studies, like with all my other homework and stuff. And so I'm kind of debating, like, do I take a gap year in order to get the score that I want, or do I take a little lower score and not take the gap year?
If you have to take the gap year to get the 170, take the gap
Yeah.
year.
And so, yeah, because that's what I'm wondering. Like, I don't know because I just know that there's going to be a lot of time to commit to getting that 170. And just with all my coursework too, I don't know if I can commit that time without the gap year. And so I'm just trying to see, like, what do you feel like is the time commitment? Do you feel like it's possible with good, like, study habits and things like that to get that 170?
Yeah. So like I said, if you've got to take the gap year, it's worth doing to get the 170. But I also want to explore with you, how might you be able to get the 170 plus without having to take the gap year?
Yeah.
So I assume that you're looking to apply in the upcoming fall.
Yes.
To start law school the following fall.
Yes, correct.
So you could theoretically take the LSAT in June or July or September or October and apply in the upcoming cycle. Now you're still in college right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And are you graduating this year?
Also, I'll graduate next April.
Okay. Okay. So you're a junior right now.
Yep.
All right. So what are your summer obligations like?
So my summer obligations right now, I am doing research in Africa for a month in July, but other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay. So theoretically, you could study a tremendous amount over the summer and then take it in the fall.
Yes.
What is your spring semester of college looking like?
Right now?
Right now.
This semester? Okay, so right now I am in 14 credits. It's a fairly heavy load. I'd probably be able to commit a few hours a week, maybe 5 a week to studying for the LSAT, but I'm not sure if I'd be able to commit a lot more with than that.
Okay. Well, you could dip your toes into the water, see what it's like if you block off maybe a half day each week.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have class like Friday afternoons, maybe you could study then, and then study a ton over the summer. Bring your books with you to Africa, then take it in the fall.
Yeah.
It's worth exploring because it could help you avoid having to take a gap year. And if, let's say, you register for the October LSAT or the September LSAT, if your test scores aren't where you want them to be in the final few weeks beforehand, you could always postpone or withdraw, and law schools will never even know that you were registered.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to take some notes.
Yeah, sure. So my thought is you aim for the fall. If that doesn't work, if you're not ready by then, you could study a lot more over winter break between fall and spring semesters of senior year.
Okay.
And then take it in January.
Yeah. What's the latest I could take the LSAT for this next upcoming year's law school applications? What's the latest they accept?
The latest they accept varies from school to school. Some will take February, some will take March, some will even take beyond that. Not that it's necessarily desirable, but you could.
Okay.
The latest I would recommend would be January.
Okay. What do you usually see? Because I've heard everywhere from like 150 to 400 hours for studying. What do you see most common for students that score a 170? What is their hour, like what is, I don't know, usually the average hourly study to get that 170?
It depends on a tremendous number of different factors. I typically recommend on the more side rather than the less.
Yeah.
So typically 5 to 6 months to reach your fullest LSAT potential.
Okay.
Maybe 10, 15 hours a week. Some people spread it out more, some do less. I would not try to cram this though. I'm glad that you're thinking ahead on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just know that the LSAT creates so much more than just like, studying for a test. It's a lot of these habits that'll carry through into law school. So I really want to make sure that those are ingrained to perform well on the LSAT, but also to make sure that that performance carries through.
Yeah. So I'd say it comes down to a lot of navigating dense, difficult text and building that skill of pattern recognition, recognizing those methods of reasoning that recur, that repeat again and again. Because that way, when you encounter a new question on the exam, it's not really new to you because you've already thought through that during your studying.
Okay.
And then, of course, thinking critically.
Yeah, as that critical thinking and the analytics. With studying for the LSAT, I've glanced through your website a little bit with all the materials that you have. Do you have anything in addition to that you recommend to students shooting for 170?
Yeah, sure. So aside from the free stuff, I have guides, cheat sheets, checklists, explanations, study schedules, and full video courses for every section of the exam.
Okay.
And aside from all that, of course, the actual official LSAT prep tests published by the Law School Admission Council. And so aiming for 170 plus, I would recommend doing at least the newer half of all released exams. There are nearly 100 of them released.
Okay.
Nearly 90 of them are numbered, and then there are a handful that are unnumbered. So I'd recommend doing the most recent 50 or so. I wouldn't do the older ones at the expense of the newer ones. So don't start with exam number 1 and work chronologically up to the present, because you may never actually get to the newest ones if you take that approach. Start in the middle, then start to work up. And then if you find that you have the time, you could dig into some of the older ones, perhaps, especially the logic games, if you really want to perfect logic games.
Okay, sounds good. So you said if it's between scoring lower, scoring higher with the gap year, take the gap year to score higher. What do you see pros and cons of the gap year?
Well, the pros to me is obvious. The pro is that you get a higher score. You get to apply with a higher score. And since law school admissions is primarily numbers driven, just a couple of points more could lead to significant scholarship money or getting into a better law school. So if you want the top 14, if you want the 170 plus, you want the scholarship money, that's really what it requires. It requires that top score.
Okay.
Downsides are just patience, having to wait a while.
Okay. Do you find that students, if they do intend on taking a gap year, that it does help them, or do you ever see that it hurts them with their studying?
From an admissions perspective, it doesn't really matter one way or another. I wouldn't take a gap year or not based on how admissions will look at it.
Okay.
In terms of how it can affect studying, I think it has more potential to help than hurt, because you've got more time to get into more of the exams and take more time to build that foundation. It could run the risk of burnout if you have nothing else going on and you study too much. But as long as you structure your studying properly, factor in time for days off and rest days, and keeping in mind that it's a marathon, not a sprint, then I think it could be okay.
What is your recommended weekly allotment for studying? What do you recommend that you don't go over, stay within a range of, to avoid that burnout in any studying scenario with a gap year or not?
I would say maximum 5-6 hours per day.
Okay.
For 5 to 6 days per week. So you're definitely taking off at least 1 or 2 days, and you're not burning the midnight oil on the studying. You're not having to take up the majority of your day. You could do a couple hours before lunch, a couple hours after lunch, and have that be it.
Okay. That makes sense. So then about that, yeah. So about 25 to 40-ish hours a week, just to avoid that burnout. And you mentioned about 5 to 6 months is the prime study block of time.
I think that's the minimum I would recommend to achieve your fullest potential.
Okay.
Could you take longer? Maybe. I'm not saying that you need to or that you should, but especially if you've got other things going on, like you're traveling for the summer internship, you've got college classes keeping you busy, that may mean that it takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
I find the students who do the best on this exam typically tend to devote more time and work through a greater number of exams. But there is a limit on that, and there is that risk of burnout. So it requires some self-control to not get too obsessed with this and factor in time for all the other things that are important, like sleep, diet, exercise, meditation, relaxation, things of that nature.
Okay. So, and then just kind of an overarching question, considering I still do have a decent amount of time before I would start law school, what are some tips that you would have for me now in that preparation process?
In terms of law school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And preparing for the LSAT and just like my overall resume, things like that. Like what is most important for me to be doing?
The LSAT is really the most important. Law school admissions is primarily numbers driven. So keep your GPA up, get the highest LSAT score possible. And that really, everything else pales in comparison to that.
Okay.
Like work experience and internships are nice to haves, and you don't want to have huge blank spaces on your resume, but you're still in college. It's not really a concern. I wouldn't really worry about any of the other parts of this. Those will come later. Once you've finished the LSAT, then you can really worry a lot more about the application essays and things of that nature, getting recommendation letters. But if you're a junior right now, that still seems pretty far off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just like getting into the materials that you've provided that we can purchase and stuff. And because you have like the different levels of packages.
Right.
As well. And so just like that highest level is the one you'd recommend.
Yeah. So the Supreme Course package includes live online masterclasses and Q&A sessions, as well as group coaching, along with foundational course video lessons on every section of the exam, games, reasoning, and reading comp, as well as the recordings of all the previous classes I've taught.
Okay, perfect. I think that was all the questions that I had written down for you.
Great. One thing I want to add about the course for you is that it includes a special day-by-day study plan to use in conjunction with the course, so that step-by-step, day-by-day, you know exactly what to do and what not to do. So it's telling you, watch this video lesson, then complete several practice problems of that type using the actual official LSAT exam. So it really takes all the guesswork out of it for you.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
Good.
Is there anything else? Any advice, anything else to say to me before I proceed with looking at your packages and stuff?
That's pretty much it for now. But if you have any questions, of course, please feel free to reach out. And before we sign off, what would you say is the biggest insight you got from this call today?
You know, I think the biggest thing that I got was just remembering that like the LSAT is the most important thing that I can do. And so if it means like taking a year to just really delve into that it is worth it. Because not only will that help me better as a law school student, but eventually it's going to help me get into a better career, hopefully, because that score is going to help me get into a better school, and et cetera. Just keeping in mind that the LSAT score is the most important thing for me.
Great. Well, please keep in touch and let me know if I can help in any way moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Hannah. Take care. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.